INTAC was created under the chairmanship of Rajiv Gandhi, who was a pilot. And Aga Khan Foundation was invited to India to create, bring in funds and all. So all the focus was put in recreating the Mughal structures. Their whole focus is transforming Delhi into a Mughal city. They have gone to the extent, Aga Khan and INTAC, with the help of ASI, to which I fought for 3.5 years, to change the name of Indraprasth area into Dinpana. This ASI is completely under the control of people like Aga Khan. How could you dig 4 meters deep in a protected site, whereas ASI does not allow even 1 foot of digging in a protected site? So their plan was to get to UNESCO to declare Delhi as a heritage city of Mughal times.
Namaste everybody and welcome to Sangam Talks. So today we have a very special guest amongst us. She has a stellar body of work in front of her and her name is Miss Neera Misra. So Miss Neera Misra is a social entrepreneur with almost 21 years of work experience and as a business entrepreneur and then a social entrepreneur. So she is also presently visiting faculty, consultant and founder, trustee and chairperson of Draupadi Dream Trust, a trust founded on Vedic principles and philosophy. But she would prefer herself being addressed as a student emeritus of ancient Bharatiya Itihasa, Sanskriti and knowledge systems. She is also a prolific author and editor and member of several prestigious committees on the Government of India as well as other countries. So with that, ma'am, I welcome you to Sangam Talks.
Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share my humble knowledge with you and with your viewers. Thank you.
You have this stellar body of work which you have been doing, silently with a lot of dedication and passion. We would first like to hear your story growing up in Delhi and being so connected to the culture, the traditions, the rituals and also our entire narrative of our Itihasas, Puranas and Vedas. Could you tell us how did this journey begin as a child?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I seldom speak about it, but I'm glad that you're asking this question because it sometimes intrigues me also that how I came into this. See, I grew up in West Bengal. My father was in a British company. I had the best of education, Loreto product, etc., where we were told that all this history and all that, I mean, this our Mahabharata, Ramayana, they're all like, myths. And they are like, and they would actually say they're just your books of religion. It has nothing to do with history. But I grew up in a family where my grandmother from childhood used to tell me, because we belong to a land which is the birthplace of Draupadi. So there was always this intrigue about knowing this personality, and our house had a lot of spiritual things. So I would not never call it religion. We were never religious. We were always spiritual, not only in our way of life, but even in our dealings with people. So when my father retired in Calcutta, I moved to Delhi along with my parents. I've had the good fortune of being with my parents always and being opportunity to look after them. I think they say it's a great blessing to be taking care of your parents, And मतलब वो पुण्य जो कहते हैं हमको उसका पुण्य प्राप्त हुआ है. So when I came here, I had already completed my MA in English. I had done my BEd because my father was very keen I get into starting an institute of knowledge. And because my ancestors were scholars of Sanskrit. And so later I'll tell you how this translation of the Mahabharata and all that. And I was chosen and I had done my business administration also, because if you have to start a business enterprise, you must also know that. But when I came here, there was an ad about SIDBI wanting to train women entrepreneurs. And I was fortunate to have been selected, and I was very, very fortunate that my training happened at Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce, Tansen Marg, New Delhi, the Apex Chamber. And my teacher, my guide was from the top government institute called Department of Science and Technology. He was considered, like a guru in entrepreneur training. So when I trained there, I was doing very well. I fortunately did some very fantastic projects like launch of Opel Astra car, France 98 World Cup football tournament across the country, World Cup 99, it happened in England, but we were doing promotions here. So I was doing all this. Suddenly, and I was, by virtue of being successful as an entrepreneur, FICCI made me a governing body member. And then I was asked to do a research on women in gems and jewelry, and I went to Jaipur. Now I'd got this very fantastic big order. In those days, I'm talking about 97, I'd got an order of 45 lakhs, one order, for a promotion of one of the brands. And I was so excited. My father said, now you have to buy your own new car. You can't use my car anymore. So I got this new car, and then I went there to Jaipur. And on my way back, unfortunately, I had a head-on. My driver sort of maybe made a blunder, whatever, and I was grounded for 6 months with my face completely broken and my legs broken. I was in bed. I couldn't speak for 3 months. And so my parents, as I said, we were a very spiritual family. So they would put on in those days we used to have that cassette players, where we could see movies, So VCR bolte the usko. So they put on the VCR, all these Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all type of, stories which are connected to because they wanted me to get that strength of the people that should not think you are down. Because see these people, how they struggled in adversity. So that inspired me. And then suddenly when I was seeing the Mahabharata, it came that scene of Draupadi, oh Kampil mein her wedding is going to happen, And I asked my mother, is it the same? She said, yeah, it is our Kampilya. And then I remembered my grandmother's tales. And my father said, the first thing that you have to do, in fact, even my saving from that on Jaipur highway in a lonely place was very mysterious. Two young boys saved me, brought me home, and somehow they had given their numbers. The numbers vanished. So my father thought there is something special, something very spiritual. Somebody has saved you and brought you here, and you must go and say, do puja at our ancestral place. So that is normally we go there when there's a shadi or when there's a child born or some big thing happens. But this time he said you have to go and thank them for keeping you alive. There must be a purpose to it. So when I went there and I saw this place of Draupadi in my living memory, because as a child you don't remember when you're small, When I saw this, I was aghast at the pathetic condition of a place of national heritage, protected under the Ministry of Culture by the Archaeological Survey of India. And I said, my God, so much taxpayers' money, and here I'm sitting in Delhi and I see crores and crores being spent on the Jama Masjid or the Humayun's tomb or the Safdarjung tomb and all these places, and they can't protect our place just because it is linked to a woman. And then I said, I must get into this. And another important thing that happened at that time, that as an entrepreneur, as a woman, I was sensing a lot of issues like, how is she successful? The typical question used to come, how is she successful? So what I realized that a woman's knowledge, her capabilities are not even thought about. Her success is always asked with a question mark. Then I went back to Draupadi. First of all, I had learned that lesson of hers that if there is an adversity, you should fight it out with great dignity. So I would always say, nothing is wrong with me. I'm going to be normal. I'm going to be all right. And they used to say so much about Draupadi. I used to keep asking, people would say, she's Panchali because she's got 5 husbands. I said, no, but she's Panchali because she's the daughter of Panchal Desh. Things like that, So I said, if they're talking all this about her, I must know the truth about her. Because till then, we were actually not reading the Ramayana or the Mahabharata per se. We were only seeing the movies and the TV serials. And even in that, they were showing some things which were not correct. Now I know it's not correct. So I started getting research, getting into the deep into it. And that got me more and more connected to the ground realities of our itihas, ground realities of how, as you go deeper and deeper, you also want to know why is it we don't know, what made this situation be created where we are disconnected. And that's how and the family tradition of being having a, because my father would always say that these rituals and all, they are very scientific things, and it gives you a sense of calmness. It sort of helps you to grow in your personality and in your thought process. So that's how that was the journey began, and I said, okay, I have to do something very solid, and you can't do it with just thinking about it and talking about it. You have to be active in a structured way. So I launched the trust called Draupadi Dream Trust soon after that, and so its name and its inspiration comes from Draupadi and started from her place. And I was very fortunate that during this research journey, because I had done so much work on Kampilya, and my ancestor, he was a very, very well-renowned scholar of Sanskrit, poet, because Sanskrit is normally a poetic language, you see. So he was crowned the Raj Kavi during the Mughal period for his contribution in helping with the translations and all that of many books into Persian and all. So then what happened that I said, okay, let me form the trust, because through the trust, if it's a structured body, we can do a lot of work. And because of that, I was invited to a very interesting place, again linked to Draupadi. So my Rashi name is Thaneshwari. Thaneshwari means in an old name of Kurukshetra. So that used to really intrigue me. Why was I called Thaneshwar? I'm from Kampilya, that is our ancestral place. Then I'm invited to Hastinapur. And there, when I was there, I happened to be meeting one of the tallest personalities of the nation, Professor B.B. Lal. He had started the excavations of Hastinapur even before we were born. And from that time, and I realized that he's my neighbor. He was like, he lives across the road. I didn't know this. From that time, he became a patron of the trust. He started guiding me, helping me, and I got introduced to. First, I was going into books only. Then I text. So I got introduced to archaeology, because I said this is another way of looking at things. And then when you get into archaeology, you get into art, you get into inscriptions, etc. So with his help, I started doing all this work. So this journey started, actually, I would say, by accident. I think it's Krishna Kripa on me, that Krishna Kripa, he probably had some designs on me. He wanted me to do something for his Sakha. Because in today's world, we do revere Krishna. We do talk about Bhish Pitama, we talk about all the Pandavas, we talk about many personalities of the Dwapar, but we seldom talk well about his Sakha. So probably he chose me, and I'm so happy, I'm absolutely blessed, I think.
Kampilya, and your this wonderful work that you have been doing with IIT Kanpur, and you also you used the GPR there, and you kind of excavated and on your own through the Draupadi Dream Trust. Just tell us about that wonderful work that you have done. What have been the results of it, and where do we see it going?
Okay, so what happened, as I said, when I started my work there were multiple angles I took. One was research through text, etc. But that is not sufficient. Again, it goes back into books and in the libraries, and that's it. And I'm always a proactive person. It should be shown to the people. So what happened when I went there, I thought that we must do excavations there. It had been excavated by BHU, by Gujarat University, by Allahabad University, and also a team of Italians had done excavations there for 3 years. And their report was very, very interesting, because at that time, Dholavira had created a lot of interest. And when those people had done some satellite imaging, and they found the remains of a killa which was matching the same design as the Dholavira killa. So that interested me a lot. I said there is something much to it, and that is another way of going through it. And they had reproduced some of the diagrammatically what Kampil may have looked like, because because they have all the resources, you see, and they are, when they get into this work, they get into with a lot of funding and a lot of interest. So what I did was that it was a great struggle, frankly. It took me almost 5 years to get the clearance from the Archaeological Survey of India. And so I got the clearance from there, but I had to have somebody who is like nearer the place, so that travel expenses and movement for the person is not difficult. Otherwise they just give up. You have to have a good archaeologist. So I was fortunate that I identified the Lucknow University head of the department, Professor D.P. Tiwari, at that time, to do the excavations. But Kampil has a lot of challenges, in the sense, in terms of Aishatra and Kampil, which they are twin cities of Panchal, Aishatra is not so much habited, because they say that Ashwathama's Atma is still bhatkoing over there. So there is not much of a urbanization. In Kampil, something very difficult happened. We had this, our family had this orchard of about 200 acres of mango. So somehow there was this, during the 60s and 70s, a rule of the government that they can take any land away for public good. So in 70s, Indira Gandhi took away the land, saying that we will create a mill over there, a spinning mill. So I was I was not there at that time, but my people said, what would a spinning mill do here? Because this is a place of heritage. It's a place of agriculture. You do something related to that. No, 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 spinning mill. They made that. Now there were no laborers around, there was no manpower around, but because the spinning mill came up, they hired people from outside. So when these people, they came, within 2 years, the spinning mill collapsed. It collapsed because I said no manpower proper. Secondly, there was no raw material. Thirdly, there was no transportation facilities. So it was actually a useless thing to do. It was just a white elephant sitting over there. So when these people, when the mill closed in 2 years, all these people, they got scattered in the temples and the killas and all the heritage buildings. Wherever they found place, they sat down. So there's this huge mound of the killa. They all sat down over there. They made their jhuggis and all, and now they have made their concrete houses. So the challenge was how to go deep, because it's all inhabited. So then we said, along with this, wherever we were finding good patches, we did the excavations, we did 10 trenches. But where we were finding challenges, we said, let's do something better. So I contacted IIT Kanpur. Fortunately, they were very happy about it, and they took a very, very nominal fee of 60,000 from me, because otherwise it's like a 10 lakh thing. I said, look, we are an NGO and this is the importance of the land, and it falls in Kanpur Commissionary, the whole area. So for them, it was like they're doing something good for their own region. So we did that, and the findings were very, very nice. They could detect a lot of things, material inside, and they said it has a potential of finding very great things. Because on the top surface itself, we see the mud, which is linked to that period of PGW, painted grey ware. It's, they can feel the mud and say how old it is. And there were temples and the remains of temples which are going back to time, immemorial. And even today we have those temples over there. So the excavation was very, very interesting. Of course, they did find remains of the painted grey ware, but they have also found blue pottery and different sections. But my only interest was how to get to the Mahabharata period, which is actually, they say it's evident on the ground. So we don't really have to go down. But what are the limitations of an archaeologist? I found out for the first time. They talk a lot, but there are 2-3 limitations of an archaeologist. Number one, archaeology is a field which started by the Britishers when they were doing work everywhere and they were finding things and they didn't know what to do. So they had the CPWD department which was looking after it. So there were no trained people at that time. Secondly, when they find something, the only thing they can do is tell the date. They will say, we will only tell the date, we will not tell you which history it belongs to. Irony is, before they start excavations, they go through the literature. So when they started excavations in Hastinapur, they went through the literature. When they started excavations here, they went through the literature. Why are they going to the literature? They are thinking of a place, Hastinapur. and they know that Hastinapur is there. So they will say, yes, we found something which is X number of years old, but we can't say that this is linked to the story of Mahabharata or Ramayana or whatever. So,
And why exactly is that, Neeraji, that they are not able to link? Is it because
no, they're not able to link because for 70 years they were under a rule for whom re-excavating or reviving the past history of India was actually taboo. So they would not even talk about it. Second, another challenge that I found when I was talking with them, whatever they are giving the timelines, like this is Kushan period, this number of years, this is Gupta period, this is Shunga period, whatever period, or this is Mahabharat PGW period, they are going but what the Britishers have written. Okay, and Britishers' timeline is very, very wrong. Why? Because they had a predetermined date of 4000 BC for of the earth and 0 for Christ. So everything they find has to fit into their dateline. Whereas what they were finding, inscriptions that they were finding, they were going back much, much in time. So 3000 inscriptions have been just pushed aside by the Britishers saying these are fake. Now, how would a person 3000 years ago create a fake inscription, and why would he do it? So, those are limitations that I was finding much of that thing. So, we started using a multidisciplinary approach. So, to end what my experience in Kampilya, I think it was a very rewarding experience, a very, very enlightening experience, because what we did was much more than what had been done before. Number one, we went and authenticated also what the Italians had done, and on the basis of that, I was able to push through the project that I had started working in 2004 and 5 to create that place as a place of tourist interest. I started that with a study on, I took the angle as a social worker that if I'm going to do, because the experience of the Suta mill, the spinning mill was very bad, that you've created a white elephant, it's not giving jobs, it is not giving you returns. So I said cultural tourism will be the best industry over here because it's low investment, it is wider involvement. So I started researching on types of jobs that can be created, which are the places that can be created. So that study on development opportunities through cultural tourism. At the same time, we were pushing, there was a World Bank office which was in my uncle's house there, that why should we not have proper roads and proper railways, because we had a meter gauge. So how will we have a tourism if we just have a meter gauge there? So all those things I was working simultaneously, and when this excavation happened, it started started talking about it. Then I could push my project with the central government that please sanction a destination tourism project for that, which got sanctioned finally in 2013. And so that was the very encouraging thing. And then when this work was published in India Today in 2015, the then Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav invited me to his house, and he says that we didn't know about this. I said, now you officially declared it as a tourist place. So we got the order, declared it as a tourist place. And a lot of work has been done. We've got solar lights there. We distributed solar lights to children over there because we said you must study, and we had started a computer training, because when they said, what are you going to do for us? I said, first, before I bring the industry, you should be trained. So we had started on two verticals, if you will see. One is on education through IT, vocational training, skill development, personality development. On the other, heritage development and research and development. And I used to say, if you're not computerate, you're illiterate. Because any job you want, you have to have computers. So that was my experience, and the way forward is still now my two things are left for Kampilya. The tourism project is still half done, because as things happen in Uttar Pradesh at that time, not now, like Rajiv Gandhi said, that I give 1 rupee and 10 rupee reaches there, that is what happened, and nobody had any control over it. And so that thing has to be revived. So today my meeting was with the DG Tourism, and she was very, very positive, And then the other thing is that I feel that places like this, names have to be recognized also. Unfortunately, it is in the district of Farrukhabad. it should get its original name because Kampilya in ancient times, as per a Vedic text, was a huge samrajya. It was a huge kingdom spreading from Ayodhya, that is Saket, till river Byas. And gradually, because of the tiff between the people in the Kuru area, the Meerut area, they divided into Panchal and Kuru. It was first one huge kingdom. So I want to get the district to rename. If you can rename Allahabad to Prayagraj and so many other places, why not Farrukhabad to Kampilya? Because it was originally Kampilya.
You, in organizer, you mentioned that there's no point in, just crying about the past, where you said that this was taken away and damaged and all. That's okay. But then the point is, what do you do about it now? How do you rebuild it? And how can you be proud of your Bharatiyata and your culture? And that is to be done through tangible, seeable, physical, kind of structures and concepts and constructs. So, what exactly were you trying to say through that article, Neeraji? Could you just put it down in words for our audience?
So that was always had been my concern, that we have been promoting India, and of course people talk about India, but we have been promoting only intangible heritage. We are promoting dance, drama, theatre, we are promoting now, of course, yoga had also come, etc. But in terms of dance and drama, somehow we became known as the land of snake charmers, isn't it? So intangible is okay, good, but to connect to our roots and to connect the youth of today to be proud of their language, they have to see. And that is why when I was going through all these research, I found that India does not even stand in the first 30 countries in the world which are promoting their tourism of heritage sites, in spite of having the maximum number of sites in the UNESCO. But when we see the sites in the UNESCO, majority of them belong to the medieval period. So why we are not nourishing the roots? I mean, a tree cannot be just the trunk. You have to go to the roots also to nourish that. So I said the most important thing, in order to preserve the oldest civilization of this world, and we are the only civilization that is living, you see. So in order to preserve that, you need to preserve the geospatial landscapes and the specific points where important incidents happened, where important personalities lived, whether it was the rishis or whether it was the kings. And so we should develop them as places of tourist and heritage interest, of spiritual interest. Let's not bring religion into it, because ancient India never had a religion. Religion is a very new concept which came with the Islam and Christianity, etc. We are a Sanatan. Sanatan means eternal way of life, which is our thought process developed from Prakriti. So Shakti and Prakriti, the Shiva concept, So Prakriti gave rise to a Sanskriti, and so every ritual of ours is reconnecting with that. But that is our personal interaction with the universe. We have to get the people to understand the science. To understand this science, they have to understand the history. How do they understand and connect to the history? Till they understand the geographical areas. Today, if I tell somebody, okay, I know Gandhiji. So they would want to know Gandhiji, where was he born? Where did he live? What all he did? Which are the places. So today we are creating these museums. In olden times, we never had museum. We had a storytelling techniques, storytelling methods where people would go around. That for 1,000 years, we were disconnected. So we were completely in disconnect with our past in order to bring back the interest. Thankfully, the social media is doing a very great job. We are able to learn now a lot of new things, and this Praveen Mohan, the type of people, how much work they are doing, a lot of people are doing it. So my concept of writing that article was that I was very disturbed that despite being the oldest civilization, despite having this whole Jambu-Dweep full of ancient civilization and culture, we in our land are not able to develop that and show that and connect the people to their roots and nourish the tree of civilization.
I mean, as I was just discussing with you prior to this interview, that when we want to know something about our own history, then we have to like look for sources here, there, everywhere, and still struggle to find it. But if you want a medieval history, a reference or anything, it's easily available because there's so much literature and there's so much tangible, kind of tombs and all that around us. So which kind of proves your point that we need something which is literary, which is something which you can see, and something which you can instantly recollect. So I think all those three are missing quite a lot with regards to our original history.
See, two things happened when we were, two things happened, especially, of course, we know when the Mughals and all, the Turks came and all that, what happened was destruction, destruction, destruction. Okay. When the British came, destruction plus pilfering. So all the museums took away all the artifacts. Besides that, what they did, that Macaulay objective, that they started teaching our books of knowledge, Ramayana, Mahabharata and the Puranas as very great poetry. Kavya, Mahakavya, nothing more than that. Or there was another department called philosophy. But they did not realize that the philosophy came from the anubhuti. Anubhuti comes from when something has happened in a particular place to particular people. So history is when events linked to people happen, those events give rise to experiences, that is anubhuti, and then the adhyatma also comes and the places become important because it happened at Ganga banks, or it happened at Yamuna banks, or it happened at Narmada banks, wherever. And all these things that we were disconnected. Westerners started teaching our books as books of religion. So it got compartmentalized, whereas it was not the system earlier. So when I was going through all this, I saw something, I wrote this article, interesting article called The Tale of Two Committees. So after partition, so Macaulay time, so we were disconnected by reading. Before that, now when we came to after partition, as soon as there was 47 itself, Nehruji was approached by R.C. Mazumdar that now that we are free, let's write our own history. He says, yeah, very good idea. We formed a committee in the education ministry and he was made the director and told to prepare the concept. The moment he prepared the concept and presented it to the education minister, Maulana Azad, he absolutely almost fainted. He says, no, this can't be done, because he wrote facts. He said, we are fighting for freedom for 600 years. In different parts, we were fighting for freedom constantly. There was a fight. We never surrendered any time, And so they removed him, they dissolved the committee, and they appointed Nehru's one known person from Allahabad, because Nehru is from Allahabad, one bureaucrat who had done Mughal history, Tarachand, and told him, you write the history of the freedom struggle of India. Now, Mazumdar was very upset and all his scholars were upset, so they worked overtime free of cost and they produced 3 volumes called History of the Freedom Struggle of India, but the government made Tarachand's book the official book. So we never got to, the mainstream never got to talk about it. Now, similar thing happened during the time of Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi time, Congress had gone. It was breaking. So she needed to get her vote bank created. So she played the card and she said, she formed a committee under G. Parthasarathi and told NCERT that, okay, you have to now get the books to remove, Aurangzeb destroyed this and, he did many aspects of the Mughal history, you have to remove from there and write good things about them. So we started reading the history of freedom struggle from the point of view that Mughals were the great, Mughals did this, we never told them that whatever they were doing, they had actually got translations from our Arthashastras and our books of knowledge to implement. But here what happened, that Bhairappa, when he objected to it in the meeting, I got this from the horse's mouth. I am in touch with Bhairappa ji. They were completely, G. Parthashastri insisted that you have to do. He says, no, I can't change facts. He's saying, if you are going to write this, there will be enmity between them, Hindus and Muslims. He says, no, we are not saying that only Aurangzeb is bad. We are also saying Akbar did XYZ good things. So we are just giving a factual system. History is facts. History is not your whims and fancies. So he was again removed. So the second committee was also dissolved and they did what they did. And at the same time, during that time, two things happened. INTEC was created under the chairmanship of Rajiv Gandhi, who was a pilot. And Aga Khan Foundation was invited to India to create, bring in funds and all. So all the focus was put in recreating the Mughal structures. So transforming our old buildings, at least during British time, they did not transform. They left it as it is and they recorded as it is. And my research also says the Humayun tomb that they claim to be Humayun tomb is not the Humayun's tomb. But that is a different matter, not to be discussed today. But I think you are right. We have been deprived of knowing our history as it was, knowing our heroes, who they were. 5,000 years of history is just concise in 5 to 6 pages, and 650 years of Turk and Mughal, etc. rule is put in 600 pages, glorified. And 90 years of British rule from 1857 to 1947 is again put in 200 and 300 pages. So whatever we are taught for last three generations, even our IAS officers, they don't know where is Indraprasth. They don't know, they don't believe there is something called a itihas of the Dwapar period. For them, everything is a question mark because they have been trained like that. So there has been not only transformation of the places. So Delhi, unfortunately, though it is the capital of the country, and they should have been very careful that India is a land of multicultural. And if they were developing places, they should have developed all places with destroying any place. But when the ASI started developing, transforming, their one target was remove anything that is either colonial or ancient India. So if you go to Purana Killa or if you go to Safdarjung, the temples have been destroyed, the inscriptions have been hidden, which we had to really source them out with great difficulty of the temples there. Purana Killa had temples, those inscriptions. So a very, very, I would say, biased, as well as, eyes, just say,
Horse with blinkers.
yeah, blinkers attitude karke, they have developed our places of heritage interest, and that is why it is not easy to promote and it is not easy to get interest. And why should anybody want to see a grave? Our civilization is a living civilization. We put Atma into a stone. जब हम मंदिर बनाते हैं, we not only choose the stone which is suitable to the deity, we also उसमें हम प्राण प्रतिष्ठा करते हैं. So for us, everything is a living thing. All our festivals you see not only are linked to the seasons, but they're also a celebration of everything. So I think we need to come back to generating this interest in people of a living civilization, nourish that living civilization, and we should not let anybody just promote one cultural heritage. And I think if we show in a place like Purana Killa, let's say example, we show that there was ancient times, then came the Mughal times, then came the British period, and we show everything, whatever buildings were there. Wanted to show the greatness of a civilization that accepted everything, lived with everything, and is not unhappy with that somebody came and yes, they learned from us, we learned from them. But what ASI has been doing is destroying. They say, you know what, they say that one monument should have only one cultural aspect. So even the colonial period buildings are destroyed, even the ancient period buildings are destroyed, which is a very, very sad state of affairs, for which I have been raising a lot of issues. And like Draupadi, I keep fighting. I will not give up because justice has to be done.
That's wonderful. Neeraji, I wanted to ask you about the certain myths that are around Draupadi, the recent article that you had come out with, busting myths about Mahabharat and also about Draupadi. Could you talk about that?
Yes, it's my favorite topic, and I think I'm one of the very few ones who actually took up a very great interest in Mahabharat, because everybody would say that don't touch Mahabharat. It is a bad of, it's an inauspicious book. It is a book that creates tension. It was a book, it is not auspicious for you, keep it in the house. And I used to wonder why. A book that gives us the Bhagavad Gita. So, and I used to hear politicians saying, mat bolo, Mahabharat ho jayegi. So why are they defaming a book? So the biggest myth about the book Mahabharat is that it is a book of war. And this myth was created when Akbar, while translating these books into Persian, because he was not educated, it was more of a pictorial translation with a little Persian text. And because he had to fight many battles, for them it was always a fight, fight, fight attitude. So he only saw that fight part and showed that fight part. And unfortunately, he named the book Razam Nama. Razam Nama means the book of war. Razam is war, and Nama is the story of the war. Nama, like they say Akbar Nama or Humayun Nama. So Razam Nama. So, and he got this under his own supervision for 4.5 years. He worked with Abul Fazl and Badauni. And he distributed to his nobles, he distributed to his sons, etc. And suddenly it became so popular that in Ibadat Khana that he had in Fatehpur Sikri, there became an industry which would be making these Razam Namas and putting. So today if you go to any prominent museum, you will find some copy or the other of the Razam Nama. So it became known, unfortunately, as a book of war, whereas if you analyze the book, number one, let's go to the name, Mahabharat. So Maha means what? Maha means great, Vishal, Virat. Bharat has two connotations. One is the Bharatvansh, and Bharatvansh basically comes from the original connotation of the Rath of knowledge. Rath, Bharat. So Bha is basically linked to knowledge. Bha is also linked to Surya. So that knowledge of brightness, of prakash, of knowledge that. So it is basically that. Now right in the beginning of the book, Vedavyasa says that this book is Itihasa, number 2. This book contains the story of Jaya, means it is telling you the story of victory. He is not saying that original book is called Jaya. So people, he didn't understand. And then I went into asking the scholars to help me analyze. I worked with almost 50 scholars. Analyze the number of, there are 1 lakh shlokas. The portion relating to the war is hardly 8,800, 9,000, not even 1/10. So how can a book of 1,000 verses having such a minuscule of verses related to war maybe called a book of war? And the book Mahabharat basically means the itihas or the stories of a time of Dwapar in the place of Jambudeep, which is telling you the story of the greater Bharata, that is the land of knowledge and land of Prakash, beyond the Bharatvansh. So the fight was in the Bharatvansh. So beyond the Bharatvansh, it's the greater Bharat. That is the meaning. So why do they never say Ramayan ho jayegi? Ramayan had a 40-day war. Mahabharat had a 18-day war. In the 40-day war, brothers fought. Ravan and Vibhishan were brothers. Sugriv and Bali were brothers. Okay. Obviously, it also revolved around a woman because there was mistreatment of a woman. Here too, mistreatment of a woman and fight between brothers. So here, the four Raghuvanshis stuck together. Here, the 5 pounders stuck together. So defaming a book just because it has that component of war, but there are so many books which have war. Why are they not defaming that? So there was, I think, a premeditated attempt to denounce our itihas and history as a myth and defame it so that people don't get knowledge. Interestingly, in the preview of the book, Badauni writes, even Abul Fazl, they say that Akbar wanted to get this translated because he learned this is the most popular book of the Hindus, which they read every day in their house, and because of its knowledge, and so I must get it translated. So it is already acknowledged in this, that means that before it got deep famed as Book of War, it was very popular book in the houses. And then once, coming back to Draupadi now, see, Draupadi is the most powerful personality, but most misrepresented personality, and we go by some sort of a hype created in the media unnecessarily. First of all, they say she came out of the Havan. See, the Havan is a symbol. Her father wanted Yodha's son, and he did tapasya for a year. Then he did a yagya, because in ancient times yagya were important. Even today we do Havan. Any important puja we do Havan. So after this tapasya, he did a great yagya, so that he is blessed with twins, both Draupadi and Drishtadyumna and then Draupadi. So because she was born after a great tapasya, and the yajna, which is mandatory in the 8th month when the mother is pregnant, she is given that name Yajna. That means her father did a lot of sacrifices and prayers, the fire sacrifice, in order to beget this Yodha children. So it's a symbolic way. And also she has that purity of gold that comes out of fire. She has that strength of the power of Agni, where she can stand to withhold, adversities. She can fight adversities, and she kills anything that is bad. So fire kills all the germs. So I think it's a symbol. So that was the first myth. The second very, very unfortunate myth is that she said andhe ka beta andha, and she said she laughed at Duryodhan. Now when we read the book Mahabharata, this incident has happened when they are at Indraprasth. Yudhishthir is getting crowned. So when a king is getting crowned after the city is built, she is going to be the first Maharani of Indraprasth. Now what would be the job of a Maharani? Sit with the husband during the yajna, because they will be having abhishek. You can't do puja without the wife. Number two, as the Maharani, she has to ensure that the 100-odd kings who have come with their sons and Yuvrajas and VVIPs have come from across Jambu Deep to participate in this huge ceremony of coronation of Yudhishthir, to make sure that they are looked after properly. So that would be her job. And the city is new, so a lot of new people have been invited to settle here. So she would be more concentrated on the ritual part of it, in welcoming the guests, etc. Would you think the Kulvadu of a kingdom or the sister-in-law of somebody will be taking him around, come see my palace? So in the book, in the time where it is said that he fell, Draupadi is not there in the narrative at all. She is not present in the narrative. So how could she, if she is not present, how can you say she saw and she laughed? So she was neither present nor she laughed, because it is not saying it in the book. Second part about this saying Andhika Beta Andha. When the news of Duryodhan following in the pool reached Bhim, now Bhim and he were childhood enemies. They were always fighting with each other. So when Bhim learnt, there is a sentence, very small sentence, which sarcastically he says, Hey Dhritarashtra Putra, implying that he is like his father. But openly nobody said it. Why put the blame on Draupadi? Another thing which most people don't realize, that when we showcase Draupadi in a drama or in a film, and I think probably it started with the paintings of Raja Ravi Verma, because he did very realistic paintings of sari pulling. Okay. Now you go through any text, you go through any pieces of architecture of ancient times, because all our stories have been told on the temples. They are engraved on temples, okay. You will never find something called a sari existing. Nowhere is there a sari. So how can you show sari pulling, sari pulling, sari pulling? And then one of our scholars, because we have been, I said, working, and every scholar I discuss, and I said, no, you tell me this.
So this has become iconic because of the B.R. Chopra's...
Yes, right, you see. So, but it's been very wrongly presented. And he has done a very detailed analysis of the text, where she is brought into the sabha, and then she moves out of the sabha. Nowhere is her, she has been disrobed. She comes in the clothes which is described and she goes back in the clothes. The only thing that happened is this dupatta is touched. Now, in every generation, there is a level of value systems. Today, what are the value systems? We can sit in front of the parents and we can talk to them, hi Papa, how are you? We would never have done it 25 years ago. पापा आ रहे चुपचाप साइड में बैठ जाओ, मम्मी आ रहे खड़े हो जाओ, मम्मी पापा आए खड़े हो जाओ. All those, value system. In those days, value system was even to talk loudly to a woman or to talk disrespectful words to her or even to touch her without her permission was considered that you are insulting her and in a way you are disrobing her. It was a symbolic way. If you remember the Ramayana, Ravan always says कि मैं तुमको छुआऊंगा नहीं जब तक तुम मेरे को हाँ नहीं बोलोगी. Because that was the level of respect for women. And so this is the greatest myth that her sari was pulled and she said this so the whole blame of the war is put on her. She was never the cause of the war. She was the victim of this whole narrative of the war. So that is the very great myth, Another myth about her, you will see that she insulted Karan at the wedding, at the Swamvar. Now, what is the meaning of Swamvar? Swamvar means I have the power to decide whom I should accept. Secondly, in those days, because she was educated, you see, it is said in our Vedas, which was followed in even Treta and Dwapar and all that, first educate a girl and make her powerful enough so that she can choose her own Swamvar, take her own decisions, and she becomes an asset to herself, then she'll be an asset to everybody. So she had the power to choose, and because she was a Kshatriyani, she, as an educated person, she would want to marry a Kshatriyani or a Brahmin, and not somebody whose lineage at that time was not known. So if anybody comes and starts taking part, she will refuse. She says, we don't know who you are.
There are certain rules that are to be followed in the
Certain rules had to be
Swamvar,
followed.
yes.
Who could participate and who could not
And
participate.
Karna, of course, is known for breaking rules.
No, and at that time when he wanted to participate, his family background, his lineage was not known to anybody who he is. Yes. He was known as Radhe Putra. So Radhe was the charioteer. Yeah. So she had the right to say no to him. She never insulted him because there must have come many people. She had said to everybody she has refused. So we never say that. So the word Sudputra, if you go back more into Mahabharata, in the end, when Bhishma Pitama is giving sermon to Yudhishthir, Raj Dharm ke bare mein, he very clearly mentions that you have to have select educated Brahmins, that Brahmins are those who have the knowledge of the Brahmand. It is not by birth. So, though people who have the knowledge of this earth, Brahmins you have a lot of Kshatriyas because you need them to protect you, this thing. And you should have, obviously, facilitate traders. But where will the traders do the trading? They will do the trading when the artisans, craftsperson, the farmers, etc. They produce. So, they have to be taken care of. So, he calls them the Shudras. Shudras means the general category. It does not mean somebody who's low or high. It just means a nomenclature. Today we say we have the industrialists and we have the MSME, we have the household industries. We have different categories of industries. We don't say that they're bad or they're lower, isn't it? So it was just a nomenclature used to denote people of the general category who produce things, whether it is artifacts, whether it is the grains, different
even architecture,
engineering, even cloth, farming, cloth, spinning, etc. So those general categories, because when they will produce, then the traders will trade. When the traders will trade, revenue will come. Revenue will come, the king will be happy because he can look after Kshatriyas and pay the Brahmins. Because it was the duty of the king to ensure well-being of everybody. So even calling her a Shudraputra, for her, at that point of time, he was a person of the general category because he was the son of a charioteer. So that was no insult. So there are like that many myths about Draupadi, and these very prominent ones which give her a defame, which are something very disturbing. You see, who was actually Draupadi? We have to know. She was the avatar in Dwapar, she was the avatar of Parvati. Because how do we learn this? Sri Krishna appears in the narrative of this whole thing first time at Kampilya after he has moved from Mathura to Dwarka. So when he comes to know about the Swamvar, he is also come. He is not come to take part in the Swamvar, but he has come to ensure that Shri, that is his Sakha, because he was Avatar, she is also Avatar, accepts the five husbands, unifies them, because what was their motive of birth? To re-establish dharma.
Draupadi is the avatar of Parvati.
She is the avatar of Parvati, and then Krishna tells them that, remember, when she's got married, like he wins the tournament, Arjun, they all take her to home, and Kunti says, Bantlo. Her brothers with her brothers shocked. She is also shocked. So he comes, tells the father. So there is almost 10 days of Shastrarth. Should she accept or should she not accept? Then Sri Krishna, and then they give examples. Everybody, all the rishis are there, all the learned people are there. Sri Krishna reminds her, remember who you are. During Ganga Avtaran, Shiv had a dispute with Parvati because he was too involved in Ganga. So he curses her, कि I am sending Dharti pe Ganga, you also go to Dharti. That is the plains. So she is very upset. She says, no, no. Then he says, no, don't. Now I have already said it. I don't know what. I cannot take it back. I'll give you another boon. I will meet you in another life, but I will meet you in different forms because I cannot come back in this form. But you will be born as Shakti. So she comes and does tapasya at Kampilya. So we have that Kampil Vasini Mandir. And when the yagya happens or whenever the his father has done 1 year of tapasya. So that time she is again reborn as Draupadi. So Parvati is reborn as Draupadi. Now he tells her, you are Parvati, but the 5 Pandavas are the reincarnation of Shiva. So even today, in our Kampilya and in and around, we have Shivalings, which are Chaumukhi Shivlings. They have 4 faces and they have the central Yudhishthir. And even today we do worship to that because they are the avatar of the Shiva, the 5 Pandavas are avatar of Shiva. So the problem is that first of all, people are not understanding our theory of reincarnation. Reincarnation is a scientific thing. The more powerful, every energy always transforms into another. Energy is never dissipated, science tells us. It just may transform into different form. Same way, our Atma is this energy. This whole Radha and Krishna story. So Krishna is the Paramatma, the Supreme Atma, and Radha is the human Atma, and the human Atma, like each of us wanting to achieve perfection. So she wants to become the perfect Atma, and so that is her bhakti movement. That is her way of bhakti. Here it is her way of, Krishna takes him as a sakha, as an equal partner. The greatest thing about Draupadi is, she had the intellectual caliber to be the sakha of the greatest personality of the times. So being the sakha of Krishna itself can show how pure she was, how much of an intellectually and spiritually powerful woman she was. And that's how you see when they are in Agyatwas, you see her personality, how it evolves. She is the daughter of a king. She is married to a king, but she works as a maid to another queen. She says, no job is menial. I will fight my adversity with dignity. I will do work. Why should I sit down in crib and cry? That is the greatness of Draupadi. And the greatest aspect of Draupadi is when at the battlefield. She is sitting at the battlefield. She is there with him there. And there, when Arjun refuses to take up the fight, what happens? Krishna had given her a vow, Sakha Nyay Milega. So he remembers that. So he says, I had promised Nyay, and the justice has to come for the woman. It's not Draupadi. It's the Nari Shakti, the Nari, Samman that has to be restored. And Draupadi said that it's not me. It's for every woman. If they can do this to me, what is the status of other women? And there, the first woman who raised her voice in the open court, who is Yudhishthir to pawn me? I'm not his piece of property. So basically, at the at the point of Kurukshetra, Krishna, she's sitting there. Krishna remembers that I have to give justice to her, and that's how she inspires him for the Gita sermon. She is the inspiration because she herself is Shri. Yeah, and even as a wife, she is not his property. That is, she is not his property. She is not a piece of furniture or some coins.
Equal to him.
He's equal to him.
Without taking her permission, he couldn't have done that.
She also said, without taking a permission, how could he pawn the other brothers?
Exactly.
Because they were a part of her, because they were Ardhangani.
Yes.
And as a wife, she goes as an Ardhangani and suffers for 12 years. She says, I have this play on this, I have a very interesting 1 hour play on this, that she says, I could have gone back with my brother and stayed with my father. I was a daughter of a very, very prosperous kingdom. But why? Why? I have given a vow that I am their Ardhangani. So I went there. I stood by them. And actually, she was fulfilling the role what Krishna had wanted, to keep the Pandavas united so that she and Krishna could together achieve the objective of re-establishing Dharma. You see, in every age, there is a medium that comes through who helps to establish Dharma.
And in fact, Parvati is Vishnu is the Muh Bola Bhai of Parvati. Yes. So that's how the avatars come down here also as well. Now, Neeraji, I have a very pertinent question, that in your entire work in restoring culture and history and all these wonderful work that you're doing in Kampilya for letting people know the history, and because most of it don't even know Kampilya. They might have heard it for the first time, I'm sure, when they hear this interview. What kind of support did you get from the government, from the private sector? How was it? Were they open to it? Did you get enough help to go about and do this? How many people like you were doing it at that time? And also in the present context, you see like the Aga Khan, the trust and everything, they take care of or they adopt certain monuments and they restore it. Where do you see the Indian entrepreneurs or anybody adopting any such Indian, kind of place like Kampilya or anything and working on it like you've been doing since so many years on your own? What is the support? What is the approach of the government and the private entrepreneurs like you who set up trusts and do these kind of things? What is the scenario?
See, when I started this work, as I told you in the beginning, nobody wanted to touch Mahabharata. Nobody wanted to touch ancient India per se. Ancient India is something that is talked about. Yes, there was something called this, but there's no belief in it, and there is no desire to actually rejuvenate or to care for it. So I was working at a time which was not actually very, very conducive to the type of work, but I was determined. Frankly speaking, I got no support from any government from either UP or India or Delhi, but I struggled. It took me 10 years to get the tourism project passed. I started in 2003 and I got it in 2013. It took me 5 years to get the excavations done. I was very fortunate that I got some foreign funding. Indian companies also, they were obviously scared because, see, they go by what is the mindset of the rulers. So I was not getting much support at all. There were very individual 1 or 2 people who said, yes, good work. But whenever I did something intangible, like I'm doing a dance drama or I'm doing some talks or something, if I'm doing, like Shehnai Vadan or so, then they'll say, okay, theek hai, le jao paise. But when I want to do something solid, I am still struggling because I am trying since 2010 to adopt Purana Killa. For me, Purana Killa is very, very crucial.
What are the problems you're facing?
I'm facing problems like every time my application goes, ASI, it just gets blocked. It just gets blocked because the only party in Delhi who can take up monuments is somebody who can bring a lot of money for whatever reasons. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay, so Aga Khan Foundation brings international money. Okay, Aga Khan Foundation takes care of the people who help him. So they get all the places to develop. And as I said, that their whole focus is transforming Delhi into a Mughal city. They have gone to the extent, Aga Khan and Intac, with the help of ASI, to which I fought for 3.5 years, to change the name of Indraprasth area into Dinpana. I came to know this in 2015. I was shocked. So I fought for it. So because I have been very aggressively bidding for it and wanting to do, I said, you give me an opportunity, I will bring the money. But when I'm wanting, money is not the criteria, but you should not do it because that is not going to fit their agenda. So my problem is that I'm fortunate that today I met, first time in my life, I met a DG Tourism. Today is a very lucky day for me actually. I met a DG Tourism who was Tourism Secretary in Delhi, in Delhi government. She was also working with Sheila Dikshit. I was fortunate with Sheila Dikshit. She could not have given me anything much because her role as a Chief Minister of Delhi was very limited. But within her role, she ensured, I wanted to do exhibition of Mahabharat, she supported me. I wanted to do a tourism program, she supported me. I wanted to do small little programs and related promoting. When I launched one book, How Deep Are the Roots of Indian Civilization, and I called her as a chief guest, people were aghast. ASIs were shocked. How could Sheila Dikshit attend this program? Central government is Congress government. I said, you don't know the lady. She believes in something, she'll do it. So after that, this ASI is completely under the control of people like Aga Khan. You see, earlier it was under Culture Ministry. So at that time, whatever culture wanted, so culture wanted to promote only madarsa, so not madarsas, they promoted, what is it called? Dargahs, like, the places where they bury people. What is it called? Mazars. Okay. So these are all mazars. So why should we make Delhi? Delhi has become a place of graves. How can a civilization which believes in vibrancy, in life, afterlife, it believes in festivals which celebrate nature, which celebrate water, which celebrate human life in every form.
So, Neeraj, when you say that they are under the influence of Aga Khan,
Very much, yeah.
what does that mean? Is it that they're getting, physical kickback, financial kickbacks or something like that?
See, nobody will listen to you unless there is some proper understanding between you and them. Okay. I'm sorry to say, but this is what have been told to me, that wo sare, even once Aga Khan, when the Sarkar changed in 2014, Aga Khan was having a little problem because officers were not clear as to which way the boat is going to move because the government has changed. So Aga Khan was having a lot of problems at Humayun's tomb, and I was doing research on it. I knew it was not Humayun's tomb, and I also knew that a lot of evidence has been destroyed over there. Trucks full have been taken out from there because see, once the Ayodhya temple was excavated, there was always this fear नीचे कुछ निकल ना आए, तो जितना नीचे से हटा सको हटा दो चुपचाप. तो सबसे ज़्यादा trucks full of material was taken out from there. So he came, I met him at IIC and he took me to the place. He says, see, this work is held up, this work is held up, this work is held up. I don't know what to do, what is happening. So I just listened to him, but I told him, I said, how could you dig 4 meters deep in a protected site, whereas ASI does not allow even 1 foot of digging in a protected site? How could you do that? 100 feet long. Then I took out the report, RTI. It says they're starting to tell the story of the Mughal period, starting from Sultanate period, that the history of Delhi. So people, and they say 3 lakh people, 3 lakh children come every year to visit. So what will the 3 lakh children every year see? That Delhi's history started from Sultanate period. Before that, we were jungles, we were nothing.
So that's the whole agenda behind this.
So they bring money from outside. And they bring money from outside, and because of the appeasement politics, they are also getting support from ministry. So for the Humayun's tomb, they got support from tourism ministry, and they tied up with MOU. So my problem was, I said, they've got money from tourism ministry, they have an MOU with ASI. ASI can do an MOU with me. I will bring money from either tourism or somebody. As long as you are satisfied, I bring the money. You have a MOU with me. They refused to have an MOU with me.
And why is that?
Because obviously I'm going to showcase the ancient history of Delhi, which is forbidden. Why should I show the ancient history of Delhi? Because it is not true.
There's this partisanship going on there.
Yeah. In ASI, it's ASI. I mean, I'm telling you, any DG who comes, any officer who sits there. So I was telling you that they changed the name to Dinpana. How could they do that? So I put representation. I fought, and I made sure. Then I went to the ministers. I went to, you name it. I said, how can you call this Dinpana? What is the archaeological evidence of Dinpana? So the whole area of their plan was to get to UNESCO to declare Delhi as a heritage city of Mughal times, of Mughal architecture. So once become a Mughal architecture history, obviously it is a land of the Mughals.
Have they succeeded to an extent?
We in 2014 we stopped that thing. Then in 2015 I fought to get the Dinpana thing cleared. It took me almost 3.5 years. 17 में जाके end में जाके it got destroyed. No, 18 में 2018 the DDA finally changed it back to Indraprasth.
And what are the routes you used to fight against?
I went to DDA and I put up representation. You see, they had advertised and there was a big article. I wrote the article, then I was shocked. They said, Purana Killa to get, a new archaeological park. So I said, good, archaeological park. But when you read in between, it will be called Dinpana Archaeology Park. I said, how can it be Dinpana Archaeology Park? And then I said, it was not only Dinpana. Uske baad Sher Shah Suri bhi aaya. Uske pehle there were Indraprasth was there, which is documented in our ancient texts. It is documented in Mughal texts. It is documented in modern texts, in all gazetteers. So how could you choose? And there's a notification. There's a proper notification of 1911, which says Purana Killa bracket mein Indraprasth. And 2 inscriptions were found when the British were clearing that area. They cleared the population. So we have revenue records, we have maps, and we have those inscriptions which were dug out, which are inscriptions of mandirs. They have hidden that.
The ASI, you're saying?
Yeah, they've hidden that. It is recorded in books, but they could not find it. So I took so much of pains to find where those inscriptions are, and finally when they retired from the office, then they want to do things. So one retired person, we do a series called Indraprasth Talks. We invited him. I said, you have to tell me only about Indraprasth inscriptions. So he dug out those inscriptions. Then we went to the books. We took their photos. 2 inscriptions have been put in the Purana Killa Site Museum. See the amount of work they have done to fool us. As soon as you enter Purana Killa, the Site Museum has only some pictures of the site excavation, but they have all sorts of things which are not related to the ancient civilization. No inscriptions of ancient mandirs. Why? When you have found inscriptions here, it should be placed here. So deliberately they are hiding. So it's very easy to hide so that until somebody raises a voice. They are going to the extent of demolishing the Kunti Mandir there, and that person sitting inside there is fighting tooth and nail in the court. They're saying there was no temple over here. This is all myth.
It's going on in the court?
Yeah, in the Delhi High Court.
And since how long?
Almost 20 years.
And what is the outcome till now?
No, they're still in the court. And see, what has happened is that I told you 70s when Aga Khan came, the mandate was to transform all these, sites into Mughal sites. So Purana Killa never looked like this now what it is looking like. It has been made into a Mughal site. So first they remove all the inscriptions of temples, and then they said that this temple there was no temple over here. It is the refugees who came here and they sort of made a small temporary stay here. It is a Mughal site, so there should be no temple. And there can be no ancient site places. So they removed that. They also destroyed a Indraprasth school that was inside that Killa. There used to be a school running there. They removed the school from there. Now that school is on Pandara Road outside, and they have just made a building and sitting over there. But can you imagine, inside there was a school, and that building was more than 100 years old, and they destroyed it because they said only medieval period will be shown here.
And ASI was hand in glove?
It is ASI who could have done. They got machines to bulldoze this school.
It's actually scary
I
to
have
even
pictures
hear.
of that. I have pictures of that bulldozing.
So have you gone to court, Neeraji?
No, I could not see. I cannot go to court for the simple reason, one, that it requires a lot of money. Okay, and it requires very committed lawyers, which is not very easy to get.
So just like this Aga Khan Trust, don't we have any sort of counter to it?
They're not letting the counter come. I'm fighting for 15 years now. I've been fighting for 15 years for ISI to become, and I'm working with them. You know, when I did the Indraprasth festival in 2016, it took me a great deal of efforts to actually get the place of Purana Killa to do the exhibition on Indraprasth. They were not letting me do it. They said, no, you can't do anything over here. I said, why can't I do? This is Indraprasth. Why can't I put an exhibition of Indraprasth? I'm not asking you to give me money.
So how do you think one breaks this stalemate, Neeraji, this Aga Khan, clutch, and also I'm sure the Waqf boards and all that. They're all working through them.
They're all in hand in glove, actually, you know. I think for the Aga Khan thing, we need actually, I feel we need an online, sort of a public PIL sort of a thing to say that there are other NGOs also which want to rejuvenate the ancient Delhi. What about Mehrauli area? Same thing.
What is the current government doing about this? Are they favorable towards the work you're doing?
They are very favorable towards the work I'm doing, but they will not do anything against Aga Khan. You see, the appeasement policy is going on. I'm not saying that you don't help them. I said you help them. I'm not concerned with them, but you also help me. Why they will not help me? Because if they will help me, then with the Mughal, the ancient will come out, which Aga Khan doesn't want.
So Neeraji, I would like to, since your trust, Draupadi Dream Trust, is into advocacy, publication, empowerment, and archaeology and all these wonderful things you're doing, what are the 5 milestones in your work with the Draupadi Dream Trust since 2003 that you would like to, talk about?
See, the most important milestone was when I, for the first time, could actually take computers to my area, because the children knew nothing about. They had not even seen a computer, to the extent that when I was asking them to touch the mouse, they were scared I'll get a shock.
You're talking about Kampilya?
Kampilya, yeah. So that was very important. Then we created, there was a lot of artisans there who were wanting to be into education for computer knowledge, but their parents were very scared that if they get into computer, they will leave the crafts. So we got a software created for them. With the help of digital pen and slate, they could actually do their craft work, that is designing work, without getting distance from their traditional work, as well as learn computers. So after doing this, many girls who were not even educated, they started learning computers. I thought that was a very simple thing, but a very, very important milestone, where girls who were not getting education started knowing about computers and doing that. That was important. My second was that I could with great difficulty fight and get the excavations done, as well as there we actually lobbied to get the roads done. And we also got the project sanctioned for tourism development over there, 4.85 CR. But as I said, that somehow whatever happened, because they refused to make our trust was the monitoring authority. I was insisting, let us make us the. But I think the most important milestone that I could do, which with one focus I had gone, is to destroy all the myths that Mahabharata is not Itihas, that these characters are not Itihas, and there is a historiography of this whole Granth. And we did almost 8 conferences, international conferences, where we actually brainstormed with scholars of the world, and through astronomical dating, we'd use multidisciplinary approach, textual, epigraphic, art, and astronomical dating. With the help of the best scholars in the world, we could actually fix the date of Indraprasth when it was created, and the war when it happened. And so the chronology part of it is more or less coming in tune with what is written in our texts. So scientifically we have been able to validate that. I think that is very important, but today people are recognizing that it is itihas. People are recognizing that Mahabharata is not a book of, is not an inauspicious book, and they are, I hope one day, very, very soon, they will realize that Draupadi was not the cause of the war, but the victim of this whole narrative that has been created. And this whole dialogue that has started about getting into, see, people were earlier not even talking about going back into the past. So when I was doing all these international conferences, I remember the first conference I did in 2010. We had people from about 10, 11 countries, and there's a person in Harvard. He wrote in one of the online this thing, Communal Watch, that this was a weekend entertainment of Hindu fundamentalists. I was so upset. I said, what do they mean? They don't even know the meaning of Hindu. They don't even know the meaning of fundamentalist. And then I said, I have to fight more. So I kept on doing, and I was focused Mahabharat, Mahabharat, Mahabharat. Because Mahabharat, why it is important? It is the period of Dwapar, which is linked to Kali Yuga and the past. So, knowing the history of this period, it will be easy for us to connect to the periods before and to connect this to the period of today. So, the chronology becomes important, and Mahabharata is a tale that talks about Krishna. Krishna was the most practical person. Practical strategist. And today is a time when we are facing with so many problems. We find that Mahabharata is one book which it says it's in the book. Whatever is in this world is in this book. So it is one book which is a solution, if you read it properly, for everything. So I think getting Mahabharata its due status as a book of knowledge, as a book of itihas, has been my, I think, I feel good about it, that finally people are talking about Mahabharata, writing about Mahabharata.
I think that's wonderful, Neeraji, to have you come here and speak and to learn so much from the wonderful work you're doing. And I would request our audience members to go visit the website of Draupadi Dream Trust. It's a wonderful website of all the work that Neeraji has been doing with such passion, such dedication, and it's actually inspiring in so many ways. And Neeraji, we'll hope to have you back again, speak on many other aspects that we couldn't cover in this interview. But I would request all our audience, people who are watching this, to go to the website. They have some wonderful books also, and articles, and also about the conferences that they do. And there's one more that's coming up, which is the
Draupadi Mahotsav.
The Draupadi Mahotsav.
Celebrating 20 years of our trust. So we have divided into 5 components. So one is the Adi Parv, which consists of a 3-day festival celebrating Hamare Granth, Hamara Itihas. And we have a Kavya Sandhya, because all our Granths were written in Kavya form. And we have an exhibition of places linked to Draupadi and places linked to Mahabharata, as well as tribal art, because we were all ancient tribal people, you see. And then there is this Indraprasth Talk series, where we invite celebrities to talk on the soft power of India, not just intangible, even tangible. And then we have something called the Vedic Gyano Vigyan. So the Vedic Gyan Vigyan series is, we are covering Ayurveda, we are covering yoga, but we are this time also covering astrology and astronomy, because astronomy has played a very important part. You see, in Mehrauli we have a 27 Nakshatra temple, which was destroyed, you see. So astrology and astronomy are so important even today. I mean, science is there. And we are wanting to bring back the ancient technology of climate control through the yajna. Because yagya has been a very important tool, a system, a technology wherein we put in ingredients and we sort of purify the environment. So that is some aspects. And then we have a final component, which is the dance drama based on my writings in Draupadi, which is a dialogue between Krishna and Draupadi on what went wrong. I mean, why people are saying wrong things about her and what is the truth. So it's called Draupadi Antarkatha. So the truth about Draupadi's life.
And where is this taking?
So we are going to start this in July. We have worked out a tentative date of 28th July. So 28th July to 6th August is the first 9 days festival, where the exhibition is on for 9 days. 3 days the festival of Hamare Granth Hamara Itihas, 1 evening of Kavya Sandhya, and one of the Indraprasth talks I will tell you is very interesting. You see, this was a Jambu Deep. Besides Jambu Deep, we do have people who went out to different places, were taken as slaves or whatever. So all the countries in today's world who have linkages to the ancient historical legacies of our nation, like Cambodia, Indonesia, Bali, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Suriname, Mauritius, Fiji, South Korea, the Ram ka connection with South Korea, Nepal, Tibet, all these things, all the nations, Afghanistan. So we are going to call ambassadors of all these places, and we are going to talk about the common unifying heritage legacies of our countries, which will not only promote tourism, but it will also promote something called a oneness between the nations. You see, we need this harmony because so much of tension in the world. We need to create the common unifying force.
Common cultural connect
that we have. So this is an important Indraprasth Talk series.
And where is it happening?
It is, as of today, we have finalized the Ashok Chanakya Puri, because that's a tourism thing, and our motive is to promote tourism. As I've just done with Indo-Nepal Chamber of Commerce, I have contributed in the coffee table book and the launch of the Indo-Nepal tourism on Ramayana, Mahabharata and Shiva. And I think why only one country? Why not all the nations come together? And hopefully we'll bring out a good coffee table book after this, as we have done a good book with Nepal.
I think that's wonderful, Neeraji, and it's open to all. You all can join in.
Yes.
It would be up there on the website as well.
Yes.
So keep checking their website, Draupadi Dream Trust. We'll also put the link in the YouTube description. With that, Neeraji, we look forward to covering that festival.
Yes, we want you to be a part of it and meet all the scholars we are going to call, and definitely do cover, so that more and more people become filled with the knowledge and help us nourish the roots of our civilization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, and thank you so much for this opportunity.